Hi everyone, welcome to episode 62 of This Valorant Life. In this episode, Adam and I are diving right into some pretty huge changes with patch 11.08 dropping. There's some significant changes across agents, I'm sure you guys already know this, across the maps and gunplay as well. This is going to change how we're going to approach ranked, and so we thought it would be good for us to walk through what this means in terms of agent selection and also the difference between theory crafting, what Adam thought before the patch dropped, and his initial thoughts now after playing for it or playing with it for a little bit. So with that, Adam, I'm going to scroll down, and we wanted to start really with the changes to the initiators. So in your mind, what were the major changes that happened, and what does it mean for the meta and which agents are strong?
The biggest thing is the cooldown increase it's very significant. So all rechargeables on Initiator went from 40 seconds to 60 seconds. Aside from Sky and Teo, they don't have rechargeables still.
Yeah.
But basically what this means in practice is that if you use your util at the start of the round, you probably won't have it for the site hold.
Okay.
And then if you're using it on attack, if you use it at the start of the round, you probably won't have it for the execute unless you're executing with it off rip. So you're also like retakes are going to be a little bit slower because you're waiting for your dart cooldown. So you probably won't be flooding if you use it at the start of the round. And then for your post plants, you're going to have to delay a bit longer for it in practice. So that dynamic is very important, and that's probably the biggest change this patch because everything revolves around initiators. But who is strong right now? Pretty much anyone that can op and abuse off angles. Chamber has made a resurgence, at least in the games that I've been playing, and the Odin was already good, but Brock popularized it after winning champs, and then now the Odin's even stronger because you have less util to push them off. So Initiator is in a really bad spot right now for ranked. Some games we're even seeing like three duelists and no one's playing Initiator because no one wants to play it. So it's in a pretty tough spot right now for that role.
If initiators and their rechargeable cooldowns have increased, our ability to flush out ops has decreased, and because of that, ops and players that can abuse or agents that can abuse ops are way more powerful than they were prior to this patch.
Correct.
But because all of the initiators had their cooldowns increased from 40 to 60 seconds, all the ones where this affected them, effectively they've all been downgraded in terms of overall power.
That is correct. I mean, in theory, I guess this means Sky is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because she didn't get any changes. Gecko did get changed, by the way. The cooldowns on reclaiming them went from 10 to 20. So like my initial thought was that Gecko would be played more. I haven't seen him played at all, so I don't think that theory is true. And quite frankly, Veto hard counters Gecko, which we could talk about when we get to Sentinels too.
Okay. And so for ranked though, because of the fast pace of ranked, like, do you think this changes ranked that much?
It does, I think, for one reason, is that on attack, when you would rush a site, the rushes haven't changed, right? So the rushes and the site holds are going to be pretty same, but your post plant is going to be worse now. So let's say in theory, defenders end up like saving their rechargeable utility, and attackers are going in for the rush and they get the site. Their post plant is going to be a lot harder because they won't have the dart that they're used to, or they won't be, if they're playing, they used to play Omen, their smoke's going to be later, or if they're used to playing Astra for whatever reason, those cooldowns are longer as well. So I think for that reason, like letting an enemy team take space early on and then refighting it later is actually like really, really good, more than it used to be before, just because of the cooldown dynamic.
So move on to Duelists. So the Duelists changes were pretty minor.
In terms of Duelist changes, they were more just like nerfs, but standardizing across the board. So for example, Neon Stun went from 3.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds, and that's because Breach stuns are 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
So they were trying to just standardize everything. Waylay's util went lower as well. But the biggest Duelist change that we saw was the Waylay ult is like, it's kind of hard to explain, but before you would Waylay ult, and then if you dragged your mouse after you clicked, it could actually move. so a lot of people miss the ult. Now it acts like breach ult, where you just click and you can move your mouse after. So Waylay got like a nice quality of life buff, which Waylay was already good, so this makes her even better. And the Yoru got some pretty significant nerfs. I don't think this really changed ranked play too much because people weren't really playing the Yoru ult that well anyways. But basically, you can't use your clone or your flash when you're in a Yoru ult. So you can't like flash off oppers. You can only stare at them and then have your teammates throw you to let them.
Flashing off the op and coming out of it, or flashing and just kind of getting in front of anyone with like a shorty was pretty strong.
Right.
The ability not to do that means you're pretty dependent on your team to help you get out of it, if you're trying to get out of it on site.
That's correct. But other than that, duelist changes were fairly minor. I think they're probably the strongest role right now in ranked, even though they were before. I think it makes it a little bit stronger as well.
For ranked at any rank, or any kind of any rank, would you say you would be recommending people to be playing a specific agent, or just whichever agent they're most comfortable with? Like in this patch, would you be getting people to switch off of Initiator and playing Duelist if they feel comfortable doing so?
Oh man, that's definitely a tough one to answer. I think Initiator to Duelist specifically, probably no, but Initiator to Sentinel, maybe. I do think the Initiator role is a bit gutted, but it is quite hard to make that transition. And honestly, if your teammates aren't playing Initiator, it's going to be important to play Initiator. So I think for actual role swaps, I probably wouldn't hard recommend any role swaps. Yeah.
Okay. Controllers then. Oh, actually, maybe for Duelists then. If you are playing Duelists, are there Duelists you would recommend switching to because of this patch? Or is it just switching off of Yoru if you're playing Yoru?
I think Waylay is the strongest Duelist right now by far.
Really? Why is that?
She can self-hinder. DRX also during Champs came up with like this strat where double Duelist comps, the Waylay would double dash in, find where the site player was, hinder them, and then refract out. And then the second Duelist would go in and kill the player that's stunned or slowed or whatever. So given that a lot of people are going to be playing double Duelist in ranked, you can effectively just scout this bomb site with Waylay, hinder them, and then have your teammates run in and get that kill. You can't do that against Veto, which we'll talk about more, but that's one of the reasons. The second reason is that Jet's not very required right now, and Waylay kind of fills in that niche of being able to op on defense and also being able to entry dash on attack, but you have like a better ult. So there's not really a strong argument right now to be a Jet one trick if you can put Waylay in your bucket.
Controllers had some slight nerfs.
Yes. Astra, pretty much you can't use your suck or your stun as part of the execute if you want it for post plant. Before you were kind of able to get away with using your suck on the execute and might have it for the bomb. Now it's like definitely impossible. So you definitely won't see that. The smoke increase honestly was just changing it because the Omen smoke got changed. So honestly, you'll feel it a little bit, but I don't think it'll be a super big deal. The big change in my opinion is Omen's nerf. It went from 30 seconds to 40 seconds on the smokes, which makes it on par with Clove smokes. So in other words, you kind of don't really ever want to pick Omen in ranks now ever. The argument before was that Omen smokes would last longer and they would come back sooner, so your uptime on smokes was higher. But you might as well just pick Clove even more so than now. So that kind of sucks, honestly. I thought they would try and make Omen a little bit nicer to play in ranked, but given that he was like 80% pick rate in VCT champs, it makes sense he got a nerf. And then his flash got some changes. It's pretty much still the same flash, it's just less distance and it travels faster, which in practice doesn't really do too much.
Is traveling faster a nerf or a buff?
You'll be able to do flash peaks with it better, so in that sense it's nice. But for pro play specifically, I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah. The fact that the distance is reduced is the big one.
You used to actually be able to control the speed by running forwards or backwards, but they removed that, right?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Sentinels.
Yeah, this one's the big one, along with Initiators. So all the Sentinels got tuned down because Initiators got nerfed. That kind of makes sense because they kind of are against each other.
Yeah.
The big one this patch is Vice Flash no longer gives info. because that character could literally do everything. There was like no reason to pick any other Sentinel ever. So we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot less vices, and we're seeing a lot more chambers. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one for Vice. Cypher got kind of smacked around again. Basically, the trip doesn't slow you anymore. It just stuns you, but the wind up is longer. So kill trips are like completely dead unless you're a movement character. So in the fine print, you can see if you move more than 4 meters outwards from the wire, it will immediately zap you instead of pulling you back. So that means that it will also scan you. So if you're Jet and you dash, you'll just get insta-scanned, and then the kill trip is actually more effective against Jet now compared to before.
Wow, so this doesn't fire after the trip winding up, you're not revealed?
It has to wind up to 0.9 seconds. So you see above it, on PC it's 0.9 seconds.
Okay.
It has to wind up before it tags you.
So as long as you shoot it before 0.9 seconds, you don't get tagged?
I believe so. Or if you don't move than 4 meters. Because like, if you move more than 4 meters, it'll immediately tag you. So that's a pretty big one. Killjoy, honestly, I haven't seen too much of this. But basically, they just increase cooldowns across all Sentinels. I forgot to say that. Like, if you break a Vice Flash or a Cypher Camera or a Killjoy util or something like that, it takes a lot longer for it to come back. But the Killjoy nerfs, honestly, it's significant in the sense that if you Killjoy player, you feel it. But how the Sentinel affects the meta hasn't really changed. And then Deadlock and Sage walls have become cheaper, but also less HP. Really the only change for this is that you can buy Ghost and Wall on these characters now. So not really a big deal.
I mean, that's pretty significant. Before, if you wanted to buy Wall, and Wall pistol round is a huge pain,
Right.
whether you're attacking or defending. So the ability to buy that in a Ghost and not have to play a Classic is not insignificant.
It's not, and it feels a little bit nicer. And the walls are like less HP, so you can actually spam it a little bit quicker, which I did notice a little bit. So that was that. But one thing you'll notice is they made no changes to Veto, which kind of makes sense.
What's Veto been like to play with?
That character is, in my initial impressions of him, I thought he was going to be bad. I think when the patch came out, he was kind of bad.
Yeah.
But this patch, because everyone got nerfed and he's untouched, he's actually like really good for a couple of reasons. One, he's an op character. Not the best op character, but on defense, you can set up your interceptor to eat util for you. So you basically can't get util off.
Oh, yeah. So like the typical like drone you out with a Sova, it'll just eat it?
You'll just eat it. And then if you have ult, it doesn't even matter if they have util because it doesn't affect you. They can flash, you eat it. If they drone, you could get tags, but it won't scan you. Cypher ult won't scan you. If Killjoy ults, you won't. So like, it's very good with ops. It's very good with judges. Basically, re-clearing space against the Veto is hard. Rushing the Veto is hard because normally when you would rush, say, a Vice, you would be able to util dump. So imagine I'm Waylay and I double dash in and hinder, and then there's a dart coming in and an omen blind, theoretically, if you have an omen. The Vice is going to have to give the space. If you're playing Veto and they rush the site, okay, Waylay might dash in, but the hinder is not going to work. The Sova dart's not going to work. I believe omen blind still works, but people aren't playing omen anyways because it's a smoke change and it's ranked. So currently in ranked, you can't rush a Veto site. You have to like run forward and bait it and then try again after 10 seconds. And by that point, they're all going to be rotated. So it slows down the game. And as we all know, when you slow down the game in ranked, people don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And that's been pretty frustrating.
I see. Okay. So that's the agent changes. The map changes are pretty significant too. So more on-site play. So for B on Pearl, the adjustments are pretty significant. So remove the deep sight line from B long, so you have to play more on site. Adjust covering, positioning in around the site so that both sides can play more on site. So this box changed from like barely any cover to some pretty significant cover. Mm-hmm. And then this now has like an additional bump, like a little shed to keep your garden tools. So this covers both. So like we've got the box on site to make planting a bit safer because you can plant like right in that little corner, and then this shed makes for that super is like removing that super long sight line up and down be long, which I feel like makes it easier for defenders to play more positions, and also forces attackers to play more on site for post plant.
That's correct. And then there's like a little slant cubby on that left corner if you see it right there.
Oh yeah, right over there. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, but maybe I can talk through like what actually changed, or like what was the biggest feeling of this change. So maybe hovering over this bottom image is the best. But essentially, the new default plant spot is actually that safe box now on the left, like that spot. The problem before is that plant spot on the old map
spammed, right?
You could get spammed, right? So you kind of have to like do this awkward thing where you plant in the open and then look towards long. But now you can always plant for that, which means technically planting for long is the best plant now, and it's the easiest.
So you would plant where? Right here?
Yes, you would plant exactly right there, and you can see it from long. Now, if they only made that change, it would have been for the worse. But because they added that little shed thing, you can't actually see the bomb unless you're left side pillar.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you could be all the way up on the ramp, like deep long where the orb used to be, and you can see the bomb. So that shed is what makes that box change, I think, really good. Honestly, I'm not really sure what that left cubby thingy is for.
What are you doing there? Like,
yeah, I'm not super sure. I think it's supposed to try and be like a post plant position, maybe. But the slant forces you to be open to B-Link if they start fighting you. You can kind of just tuck away from heaven. So
you can only tuck away from heaven and like CT. Like you're not really tucking from over here.
Exactly. So
interesting.
I haven't really played that position. It doesn't seem super good for me. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what that's for. Maybe you can like play on defense and dodge a dart or something, but I can see that. Yeah. But other than that, the way the Pearl B bomb site plays now is before you are forced to either get an up pick long early and then fall back and play for the site hold by playing an elbow. But now you can play for the site hold by playing an elbow or behind that new plant spot, but on the opposite side. You now can also play behind pillar. Like it just established an actual viable crossfire if you play behind that box and your B-Link rotators are coming in. And you can have an elbow player. So the site hold is better, the post plants are better. Playing on site B Pearl for both sides is much more viable.
All right. Abyss. The big change on Abyss was the B site hallway change, and then there's changes to site as well. But let's talk about this hallway change. So this to this, that doesn't really change much, does it?
That's true. It's the biggest change is how it opens up into mid. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So previously it was at the back of mid for you to be able to cross over to the other side, and now it's kind of like halfway up mid.
That's you might have to keep scrolling. That's from the CT's point of view. They changed that about mid as well.
Okay. Where
it
is
should
that
be.
one?
I wonder if they. Oh yeah, there
this one there. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yep. So this is actually a pretty big change. Attackers can now default if they actually play slow enough to where defenders have to worry about that shelf peek, which is quite nice. But I think the biggest thing about this change is now defenders can actually fast link B, and it feels even more viable. So I like the change. I feel a little bit awkward when I'm in it, but I think basically it just means defenders pushing down mid have more options.
And then these changes to B are pretty significant.
Very significant.
So let's start at the top. So heaven is narrower.
You can't play on that little rafter angle on the right, which is very annoying to deal with as an attacker. Okay. So, but also when retaking as a defender. So they've made like heaven more intuitive, which I think is a good change. You can orb smoke, like if you're playing Omen or Astra or Clove, completely out on the ledge to like get rid of that peak that happened before, which is quite nice.
Okay.
And if you keep scrolling, this is the biggest change. They've added like these little divots into sight on
like
backside.
Mini hell.
Yep, there's that mini hell, and then there's one also on the sight box thing on the other side. That one, yep. So if you scroll down one more, so there's that little hell in there.
Yeah.
So that basically means that defenders can now play in that new divot on that sight box, which is very strong. The second one. Yeah,
This
that one. Yep, that one's a really good spot to play because you can be hidden from danger and then peek out late, and then you can kind of like have cover to work with to dodge darts and stuff like that. So that's a really good position now. But the held position is less so about the defenders, it's more so about the attackers. The post plant feels a little bit better there, but most importantly, where you just had your cursor at, in hell, you can plant in that corner, and you can that corner exactly, and you can spam it from main because it's a
so right there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the new best plant, and you can also, if you have orb smokes, you can one way at the top.
One way at the top, yeah.
Yeah. That it's a really good plant, but it basically just means your post plant's better. Also, these boxes here that you see in the middle image there, that is allowed more players to play that position, because before they didn't have boxes there. It was just like a
you only had the one big ass box here.
Yeah, exactly.
And the awkward jump up, right? So like now it feels like as a defender you both have more positions you could play, but also as an attacker I feel like now it feels easier to take more space. It
can be. I think if you have proper util, it will be. I think the biggest thing that this changed is that it simplified the gun duels in the sense that there's less verticality, but there's more cover.
Yeah.
So I'm a really big fan of the changes. It's honestly kind of hard to attack as an attacker now, but defending it feels really good, honestly. And post plants feel really good too. So really good changes. I'm honestly a huge fan of Abyss
so
now.
How does this in your mind change the calculus between A and B? Like,
good question.
How does it feel? Like, do you lean one way more than the other?
I would probably lean more B if B is weaker. It's going to be a game of dodging the Sentinel. That's kind of how the map was before, because people played Vice. So if you could dodge the Senti on Abyss, you were going to win. But the strat of starting A as your default and ending B, so get A main control and B, will probably be even stronger now, because your A main control will likely bait out a smoke, which cooldowns got increased, at least on Omen and Astra. And then if you're able to manage to break out like a Sova dart and or break Sentinel util, they won't have those cooldowns for when you pivot back to B. So for anyone listening, if you can convince your teammates to start A, go B, you'll probably win a lot more ranked rounds than just rushing A or rushing B. But I think, I don't know if it exactly changes how often I would go B versus going A. It kind of just depends on Senti or how weak B is, but you'll definitely convert more B post plants, that's for sure.
And then what about the same question for Pearl? Because it was always kind of like B long, everyone goes B long, we all meet B long, and then we decide if there's some picks or not, and then we decide what to do from there. Does this change it at all? I
think this change makes Pearl B site more defense sided, because the problem wasn't post plants for attack anyways, although this does make the post plant attack, you have more options. Because it's not as simple as going back long and spamming, you won't be able to convert as easily. So I think that B side is much more defender sided now. So attackers are going to have to work mid more. We might see more like street splits where you go down B link into B site. You might see more like connector control and stuff like that. The games that I've played, it's been very hard to take B site, and I've been trying to open up the map by going in mid. So that's probably going to be where most teams are going to be defaulting.
So those are the map changes. The last big change was the weapon updates.
Yes.
So effectively, the main change is that I think it's the first 3 bullets now are now protected from recoil with the Vandal and the Phantom.
Honestly, the way I interpreted these patch notes, I think were a little bit different than other people.
Protected bullet count 6 to 8 bullets.
So in practice, what this kind of just means is that spraying is easier. That's probably the biggest thing to know. You will be able to notice when your spray is transitioning from going left to right, because it's smoother rather than just jumping, and it stays on that side longer. So before, let's say like you spray and there's 6 bullets on the left, it'll jump to the right after, but this time you'll have that bullets count on the left for 8 bullets, and then it'll slowly transition back to the right. So visually you'll be able to tell a little bit more. in terms of like how that affects your initial like first 10 or so bullets, I personally haven't like, I didn't interpret the patch notes that way, but when I've played the game, like the Vandal like first few bullets do feel a little bit different. I don't know if it's placebo or what, honestly.
Do you think this changes that optimal, like before, people would say it is really optimal to at least like medium to long range perfect your like 2 or 3 bullet bursts,
Right.
and moving and strafing between shots. Does this change that calculus? Did FNS just level up?
FNS did level up, but only, in my opinion, on the scenario of multi-fragging. I think if you're just purely in a 1v1 duel, regardless of if you burst strafe or you're spraying, your conversion rate on that duel is going to be very similar after the patch regardless.
Yeah.
But I think what this change helps with is multi-fragging, because before, the tried and true way to multi-frag is to shoot 2 bullets, take a step, shoot 2 bullets, take a step, shoot 2, like, and then try and like, click timing your way out of a multi-frag situation. But there were some pros like Saucy or Zekin that preferred to try and spray control and spray transfer people that had like multiple players on their screen. So like they would hold down mouse 1 and they wouldn't move, and they would just like, try and spray transfer. I think that playstyle is going to get easier to do and potentially even more optimal in closer range situations. So I think it's a good change. I don't think it really changes most gunfights for players, but it's a really nice to have for some more niche situations.
And then the Spectre and the Stinger changes.
The Stinger change, I don't really feel. That gun's still really good. So if you're still buying the Stinger and you like it, still buy it. Obviously the spray is harder, but it's still going to be really good and really insane. The Spectre is actually viable now. Honestly, I think it's very good. I've been buying it over the Stinger on defense just for those multi-frags.
For post-pistol round?
For
like
post
on a pistol win?
That's correct. So as you can kind of see here, the spray is easier, but the biggest thing is that the tap efficiency got increased. So basically you can burst with the Spectre now. Before, if you tried to burst, your bullets will start like jumping, but now you can do burst, and it's still really viable. So and your spray is easier. So I mean, you can multi-frag easier, you can 1v1 easier. The gun just feels more viable. It's more viable at longer ranges. It's viable at closer ranges. It has good ammo count. Yeah, it's in a pretty good spot right now. Yeah, those were the big changes.
I saw a note, and maybe this is like not particular to this patch, but I saw a note about Riot mobile verification coming.
Yeah, I saw it. It's at the top of the game right now. I don't think it's actually in. I think it's supposed to combat smurfing and stuff like that. So I don't think it's in the patch yet.
But that's good. I think 2-factor authentication, less stolen accounts, disincentivizing smurfing. It's all good.
Yeah, I agree. Less bots, less botted accounts.
Man, sometimes I feel like $1 million, and then I'm like, oh, that is a bot in DM. That is why it is like just like running like a Yoru clone.
Yeah, just running.
And I'm like, oh, my sheriff aim is so crispy. And I'm like, oh, this bot is literally not shooting back.
Yeah, they fill the TDM lobbies too. So
is it to sell? Is it because you would level up an account with the botted account, and then they would sell like a leveled account?
That's correct, because in order to queue ranked, you need to be level 20. So people that even want to level up their own accounts, like for example, when I made a second account, it took me, I think, 3 or 4 months of playing on and off to try and get it to level 20 before I could even play ranked.
Wow.
So I mean, I wasn't playing like a lot, but the fact that it takes a while to get to level 20 is the incentive to buy bot accounts. So yeah.
In other news, were you keeping up on what's happening in CS?
With
the stock market collapse?
Yeah, big crash. Yeah.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
Did you have any skins in CS too?
Oh no. I quit that game a long time ago and sold everything with it. So yeah, I don't have it. I have cases still. I could probably sell some cases, but yeah, lucked out.
Good thing that there is not an unregulated market in Valorant, so we don't have to worry about it. But that was kind of crazy news.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I think skin prices dropped more than like 50%, like on knives and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know how they track it, but it was like at its peak, which was recent. it was like $6 billion in market cap. And I think as of recently, I was watching just something on YouTube and it was like at 3.
Wow. Yeah. Straight half. That's actually insane.
Yeah. Unregulated markets, guys. That's why it's good to have a regulated market.
Yeah, be careful with those.
Alrighty. Well, that's the patch notes. I hope that was helpful. We'll get back to our regular programming next week. As always, thanks for joining us on the podcast. We appreciate you, and see you next time.
Thank you so much.